Hello, horror fans. It's me, Cass,
Kylee.
and today we have on a very special guest. We are
Very special guest.
so excited. So this is the director, actor, producer, writer. I mean, pretty much does like every possible role he can.
He's got a hat for everything, okay? A hat for
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah,
You have a hat. But we are talking to Markian Tarasiuk from Hunting Matthew Nichols. How are you?
I'm doing well today, guys. How are you guys?
We're doing great. So this film really kind of enters a niche that I don't think we've seen a lot of found footage films with. So it centers around a missing persons case where this woman is trying to figure out what happened to her brother 20 years earlier. It's set in the Canadian forest, like the forestry behind this is I'm scared. When you did the aerial shots and you saw the forest, I was like, that's a whole lot of nope for me. But this is a true crime. This is a whodunit, and then it devolves into just a really, really fucked up just third act that leaves you like with your jaw on the floor. So we're super excited to have you on. For those of you who haven't at this point seen it, this is coming out before the release, but I would beg you to go see it in theaters because we're going to talk about this, but this film is doing something really incredible where you guys are actually like directly working with the exhibitors and the theaters, making sure that like they're putting your movie in the theater. And I think that that's such a remarkable approach. And I do feel like people are going to like look at this and be like, wow, this is the way we should be doing more movies. So we'll definitely get into that, but we are going to go ahead and hit the intro. So without further ado, let's do it.
Welcome to the Horrorcraft Podcast.
All right, we are back, and we are talking to our special guest, Markian Tarasiuk, and we're going to be talking about Haunting Matthew Nichols. But before that, it wouldn't be a Horrorcraft episode if we at least didn't ask you a little bit about horror. And from what I could gather, you are a horror fan. So what is your favorite horror movie? And this could be now or all-time favorite.
Oh, man. What I also love about horror, though, is that the classification is all over the place of horror. So you can... it's such a spectrum for me, but if I were to pick, like, I think my favorite simmering horror movie, it's going to be The Shining, the Stanley Kubrick. And again, do we consider that horror? Is it? I don't know. It's like...
I think it's horror, especially because then The Shining goes into the follow-up, which is Dr. Sleep.
And which is so good. Which is so good. I've seen it four times. It is, that movie was, okay, number one, I went into it with like no expectation because I'm like, oh, prequel, sequel, blah, blah, blah. And then I found the stuff that they did with like the kids was so off-putting and unsettling to the point it made me squirm inside. And not many movies can do that. And so like Dr. Sleep, just like that, directed by Mike Flanagan, right? Like,
Well, and you have the enormous task of taking Stanley Kubrick's vision of The Shining and then Stephen King's version of The Shining and putting them together and then trying to give Danny Torrance this like story. And I will say, so The Shining isn't exactly my favorite, and I think honestly it's because of Dr. Sleep. And
Nah.
it's just because of the fact that like you aren't expecting it to hit as hard as it is, because you know, you are right, it is so off-putting with the stuff about children, but it does
Yeah.
kind of echo like what happened to Danny with his
Yes.
dad.
Yeah.
And you see him in real time dealing with the trauma of like
Yeah.
how his relationship fell apart with his dad, and like living with everything that he's had to live with, and just like trying to figure out like, how do I survive this, and how do I save this person that has to rely on me when I don't even know how to save myself? So I
Yeah.
just found it a very honest and like refreshing movie. But
Oh
this,
yeah.
I mean, The Shining has the greatest visuals of like all like,
Yeah.
The visuals, like I think that's why I love it, is those visuals are stuck with me for life. Like
Yeah.
the iconic quality of the visuals. But I love a slow burn, and you know, maybe with Hunting Matthew Nichols you can tell a little bit that, you know, that's. But I think on top of the visuals with The Shining, to me, is the sense of dread Stanley Kubrick captured, where you know something bad or something's off, and it just like keeps bringing you along, and it's that slow descent into madness that I remember watching the movie with my dad. My dad wanted to show me. I was like 13 or 14. He's like, we should watch The Shining. And I was like, is it a horror movie? My dad's like, kinda. And I just remember that sticking. I watched it in like a tube TV in my basement. And I don't know, it's just like it's forever stuck with me. And so the psychological thing Stanley does too in that movie, like how, because I've done so much reading on it, how the map of the hotel doesn't make sense. Like, you know,
yes,
like the hallways don't make sense to what he's showing you and then what they shoot. That I'm like, oh, that's such an interesting psychological play. It's like these things he did underneath the surface to psychologically affect you as an audience member. I thought it were just so brilliant. Also, like the imagery of Native Americans in that movie,
yes,
and
Yes.
how we connect to Native Americans with like genocide a lot, and like the horror behind that. And that's just like something he added to the background of like this movie within the blood. It was just like, it's just, the more you read about that movie and what he did, is like the brilliance of it and the care that went into it, I feel, is like really.
yeah. I mean, we kind of see the same level behind like Sinners. Like that's why
Same thing, yeah.
everyone was like championing it so hard, because there was just so much layering behind it.
Yes.
Because if you look at it like it's just this vampire movie, it is so much deeper. And actually, originally, I think I heard it was supposed to be his pitch to the next Blade movie. Like they, you know, with him doing Black Panther, he had kind of like, and then he just decided to go in this direction. And I'm like, you know, this is a movie we're going to be talking about for like
We're
Forever.
gonna be talking
Yeah.
about it
Forever.
for forever.
But it's the horror isn't the best part of it. Like it's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's all the other components and all the things that they brought in with like the Irish heritage, like, you know, African American heritage, like just all of these, and Native American, and putting that aspect in it, and in a way that didn't feel exploitive at the same time too. So
Totally. You
I
know?
do appreciate that that's like where we're kind of heading to,
Yeah.
that getting back to that like layering of like making films that are impactful like that.
Well, and on in my movie, you know, with Hunting Matthew Nichols, that kind of does exist. You know, we don't sit in it a long time, but like we do touch on like the racism
Yeah.
that would have existed at the
Yes.
time with Jordan's family.
Yeah.
You know, because that's just what would have happened at the time in Canada. And also, if you guys know that in the 80s on Vancouver Island, there actually was satanic panic. Like the word satanic panic comes from Vancouver Island, because of there was satanic panic in the 80s. And so we drew on that stuff of like, okay, we've got this stuff. So again, we don't focus on it, but same like Stanley, it's like, it's underneath the history, the layer of the actual reality, and the history of that time and the place. It exists within the film, you know? So
Yeah. I also really just wanted to point out too, and I hope people come away with the same reaction, but as a woman, what I really loved, especially about your character as well, is you never make Tara feel inadequate for her feelings,
Yeah.
or it's never one of those, like the trope we see where nobody believes her. It's, you are like, I believe what you are believing, I just want to see the reality behind it, but you still support her feelings and give her room for it. And I feel like that's something that we don't see a lot in true crime films. And talking about that is having a character that is supported while still in this journey, which I think is great. So I wanted to
so glad
highlight
to hear
that.
that. Yeah, it was also just like is strong. And I think I just told her at the end of the day, I'm like, you're trying to find the answer for your brother. Would you, as Miranda or me or you guys, would you not go all the way to the end to try to figure something out? I said, if that was my sister, I would go into the forest to see. I'd have to. You have to, right? And no one should, blame somebody for trying to go down every path that you can, to figure out what happened to a loved one.
Yeah, I think her character, she just brought this rawness, like her acting, like it was just so emotionally charged. Like you felt the pain. You felt that just rambling of in your mind of like what happened and trying to piece everything together. And I think some people may not like that, but I think that it makes it like, is this really a horror movie? It brings that, is this a Netflix documentary? Is this real? And it's just something that like, I felt in my gut, and I loved it so much.
Thank you. I think too, like the horror for me also exists within, and I was talking to somebody else about this, like when I watch these true crime documentaries, and this is where the inspiration came from, is I feel like the big influences on this one is Murder on Middle Beach, which is an HBO documentary about a guy, and his, he's like 30 now, and his mom got murdered when he was a kid, and it's an unsolved murder, and he's going about trying to figure out what happened to her because there was no answer. So that's like the main influence on this movie. But there's also like this Nexium documentary, and the horror to watching those for me is watching somebody process trauma in real time feels so invasive and gross and like horrific to watch. These people, the pain on camera, and it's real, and they're like processing in real time. And now I'm like sitting with popcorn in my like living room being like, oh wow, that's fucked up. I that's horrific to me. And that's also what I wanted to create in this was there's a level of invasiveness that happens with this kind of like documentary style, and it's not fun to watch, and hopefully makes you question a little bit, like, why are we doing this to people a little?
Yeah, I have to agree. Now, as we know you're a fan of the found footage genre, what is one found footage film that you feel is super underrated?
I'm gonna go again, within the found footage community, it's not underrated, but I think in the wide sense and where the inspiration came from is, I'm just going to go back to Lake Mungo. And it's something that I don't want to like hide away from in terms of like the inspiration and who came before me in this format of found footage. But Lake Mungo, like you say that to the regular person, they don't know what that film is. And so I'm just going to, it's a pretty unknown, and because it never got a wide release. It's just a niche film, and I find that like most found footage horror films are very, very niche, and like that's just one that 2008, right, and came out right after Paranormal Activity, that just didn't have its flowers as much, I think, as it should. So we're kind of recreating a little bit of what they did, maybe on just like a larger, more polished scale right now.
Yeah, Lake Mungo is a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I actually, when I watched this, the film that kind of like came to my mind related to this in a weird way was, I don't know if you've seen Troll Hunter. It reminded me of that aspect of like in for a good chunk of the movie, it's a slow burn because it's just these, this crew trying to figure out like what's going on. They're really just trying to get to the bottom of it. And then they don't really believe that all of this, like when they meet this character, all of these things are going on. And so they're kind of tagging along just so they could catch this guy losing his mind. And so when it actually is real and like everything pops up, you're like, what do you mean that was real? Like it does like kind of play with your mind. But I do know the NXIVM documentary that you're talking about, because that to me is a hard one to watch as well.
That's a hard one, yeah. And yeah, I think I told Sean, the writer of this movie, you know, obviously we're found footage, but I most of my references to him were documentaries. Like I gave him a lot of documentaries to watch while he was writing this. And I said, look at how this scene works and like this scene. So although everybody is obviously going to compare us to found footage, you know, and the horror movies before us, no one's really making a lot of connections between the documentaries we are not satirizing. I think that's the wrong word, but drawing inspiration from, because I could like name pretty much every scene from this movie and being like, that's from this documentary, that's from this documentary, that's from this documentary. And we kind of Frankensteined it together to fit our needs. You know, so yeah, this one hopefully, again, within the found footage space, hits a different tone that I did want to go for, which was HBO. What's the HBO found footage? That's what I really wanted. What's an intimate like HBO documentary look like as a horror movie, instead of so much, you know, shaky cam and like, oh, it's just a bunch of filmmakers putting this together. I really did want to give a different experience, and hopefully that comes across within the score, the coloring, and the kind of the vibe of the movie is just a little different than I think what people are used to when you say the word found footage, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's that mockumentary, and well, I appreciate like the shaky cameras and the things and kind of the messy camera angles of found footage, but the way you have done this in such a like a Netflix HBO documentary type style, like you can totally see that. But you know, you get towards the end and it's horrific, and you're like, what the hell did I just watch? What was that? What was that? But I just think you guys captured that so well, and just like some of these documentaries like that are diving into just some really difficult things, and you're like, I can't believe that they went on camera and like aired this. Like what's the one that comes to mind? The mom was the one texting the daughter.
Yes, that's the one I was talking about, the catfish documentary. When you guys were watching the missing footage in the film, and you the two of you, it reminded me of when the cops finally figured out that it was the mom and they're reviewing everything. It reminded me of that like moment of like, oh my, what do you mean that's what's going on?
That documentary is a horror movie to me. That is a horror movie. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely.
Like, are you kidding me? Yeah. What? Gosh, what was it called? It was called.
It was
Catfish. Was it?
It was the catfish. It was something like that. Kylie's gonna find the name, but I just remember because Kylie watched it first with her husband, and then my significant other and I watched it. And I had seen like different things where they're like, you gotta watch this. And I remember
unknown number, the high school catfish. Yeah.
And then there was just Perfect Neighbor on Netflix. That was nominated for an Oscar. So, and then you dropped Body Cam, you know, as a found footage, and then Perfect Neighbor, you know.
And what I loved about it is a lot of the people who are listening know this. You probably wouldn't know this, Markian, but I have a legal background. I studied, I'm a paralegal and I studied law. But your documentary style, like the conversation with the attorney and like the way that you went through all those steps, that is very true life. And I appreciated the fact that you kept it real and you didn't like dial up like the CSI kind of factor of it, where it was more relatable, because that's things that can actually happen. And those are things that actually do happen, where like things don't get cataloged right, things get taken out. Like these are things that we've seen before. So
it reminded me of Hell House. of the first one, of when the malfunction happened, and like the town's like trying to cover it up, like nothing to see here, nothing happened. But in this, like they seen that footage of like what happened, and it toes the line of just supernatural. Like that's not real. Like I don't know what that is, but not even divulging that kind of information because they don't know what to make of it. But they're it's not real.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm curious because I just know this story so well. So I have a question for you guys.
Sure.
Was okay. So because I know what's on the footage, and when you saw the footage and like me and Ryan watching it versus the clips that I do show at the end, did it match up with what your brain was telling you at the time? And like, because we can get into like the nitty gritty of like that video and like what I was telling the actors was on it during the time to like get a certain reaction out of them. Like,
I knew before they even said, like, you guys said something, and that scene after, when you guys are watching it, I knew that they had watched a murder happen. I knew I knew that something had to have happened where they were watching either both of them be murdered on there, or they were watching one of them turn on the other. And I didn't know exactly. You don't know what scenario that is, but you just know that it is absolutely horrifying. And just some of the sounds that you heard when they're watching it, and you could kind of like contextualize like from each reaction, like, oh, somebody's body is probably like hacked up.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you could definitely tell by their reactions, like they were watching somebody dying. Now, I did not really expect how. I thought it was going to be almost like something you couldn't see, but like you were still seeing what was going on pretty much. I was not expecting like what actually really did happen. Was not expecting that at all. And just the effects and things.
I'm so happy to hear this though, because when we were talking about studio notes or like distributor notes, everybody would say you have to show them what they're watching. Why can't we see what Markian and Ryan? I said, because the imagination is more scary. I want people to create their own story at that point in the movie of what we watched. And now the hook becomes, what did they watch? And let's get to the bottom of what they watched. So the new investigation starts halfway through the movie for the audience themselves, because they don't really see what we watch, and nor do we talk about it that in detail about what we watched. And the scene with Pam and Tara at the table when they're fighting, 3/4 of the way through the film, that was on the first day of shooting. Was that scene? Gosh. And I sat there with Tara and Pam, so with Christine and Miranda, and we talked for 2 hours before shooting that scene about, because of course they had so many questions. They had just gotten the script and were like, what? And I told them, I'm like, Pam, you have to like realize that you were protecting Tara and the family because of what was on that tape. Either you were about to, if you admitted it was real, that means you're now doing a murder case that you have no evidence of. So put your cop hat on and say, like, am I going to now admit to this family that I watched what I watched, and then not have evidence for it, and then that gets leaked publicly? What kind of situation is that? So you're right, Pam, you have to be right in that situation. And as soon as Christine realized that that's what was on the tape, this is what I was doing, that's why that scene just worked so well, because she knew exactly where she was coming from,
Yeah, most definitely.
It works so well. And that actually kind of leads into our last icebreaker, which is the last horror movie that blew you away.
Oh, man. Bring Her Back.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Bring Her Back. Still.
Oh, man. It made my skin crawl. And I watched it, I don't know, like 2 months ago because I missed it in theaters last year, and then watched it at home. And some of the body horror in that movie made me squirm and had to look away. But I just loved how that movie connected. Again, like maybe like Hunting Matthew Nichols, these are all, or Hereditary, all these things are so interconnected with trauma, I guess, because it's horrific. But like the same thing of if you lose your, you lose your daughter, at what level do you go to try to bring them back? If you think that's possible and in the realm of possibility, would you do it? It's a good question, and that movie toys with that idea. And I think my favorite horror movies toy with larger kind of ethical or moral questions are presented to you. Then that makes whatever I'm watching more, impactful. So that movie had that like theme to it. Yeah.
Yeah, Kylee, what about you? What's the last film? We watch a lot of films. What's the last film you think like took your? I mean, this is the last. This probably the last film that like made us go like that.
Well, I can tell you, it was not Scream 7. That's for damn sure.
It was. It was not. It was not.
Was not. I don't know. This was so far one of my favorite horror movies of the year, Hunting Matthew Nichols, and like it's just one that I felt genuinely scared towards the end. It was engaging. It made you feel. Undertone was great. Now I'm scared of sounds. I'm trying to get cast to start recording in the daytime so we don't got to do nighttime because.
Yeah. I had actually watched Do Not Enter before watching this, and I would say that was the last one right before I then immediately started Hunting Matthew Nichols after this. So
well, the other one that I watched the shorts, the Backrooms. I watched the shorts that are on YouTube, and I watched those in the daylight, and I jumped. Like I was like, oh, okay.
I gotta watch the Backrooms. When I saw the pickup on the film and that's coming out pretty soon, I was so out of the loop with Backrooms. I'm so out of the loop on YouTube, to be honest. Like I'm just not into that world. And then I gotta check these out now.
Yeah, well, there's like a lore to them. Like I've been hearing about them for a couple years in like the found footage groups because I'm in a lot of those, and like I need to watch these. And then they're making the new one, but they are just so profound. There's some lore to it. I'm still trying. I'm about to go back and rewatch them, and there's a certain order that you have to watch them in. But this guy was 16 years old when he made these YouTube shorts. Crazy. And I'm just like, how? So I'm super, super excited to see Mark Duplass is going to be in Backrooms. Yeah. So
and Cheadle Ejiofor is going to be in it as well in a horror movie, and I'm like, so excited for that. I will say it's not something that like obviously, well, made me a little afraid, but like the new Yeti movie that was absolutely insane. I will say we did see a smaller film that like stuck with me in my mind just because I feel like that's where we are heading, and it's called Recollection, and it's just the idea of taking away people's memories and what you're giving up in order to erase your trauma. And ever since then my brain's been like, what's
this movie called? I gotta write this down.
It's Recollection. And it's actually Eric Roberts makes a cameo for like a little bit of time, but like they basically in the future, it's like they start making it a thing even with companies where you can go in and you can erase the bad moments that you had in the week. And it's about this woman where she does it and it like backfires on her and she starts remembering, and it really kind of like plagues the question, what are you willing to give up in order to have peace? And so it's definitely been a big one.
I'm gonna check this one out for sure. Okay.
Yeah, it was. You'll have to let us know what you think of it because since then I've been like Chat GPT is gonna ruin the world. I'm like, I every time they like, I have a grammar check or something, I'm like, am I pushing us one step further to that reality? Like, I'm a little, I feel like I've become like Sarah Connor, where I'm like trying to like not, I understand practical uses for everything, but I was just like, after that, I was like, no, we're not doing this.
Nope.
Like,
nope.
It's not happening. So,
damn. Okay, let me check it out.
So you were inspired by the real life disappearances on Vancouver Island, and I know you put the stat up at the beginning of the movie, but it is terrifying because it talks about like twice the amount. And even in the conversations that Pam talks about at different points in time, she talks about how that is a very harsh landscape, and you can fall off. There are ravines, there are different things that happen. What is the moment when you started all of this where you were like, yes, this is a story I need to tell?
Oh man, it came in being the early stages of development, because I lived in Vancouver for 12 years and got really familiar with the landscape. And I'm originally from Winnipeg, and which is like just 8 hours north of Minnesota in Canada. And so I came from the center of Winnipeg, very flat, no forests like this. And then I came out to Vancouver and like Vancouver Island, and was so impressed, of the forestry and the landscape. It's so haunting. That Pacific Northwest forest is so specific. It's very rainforesty, old growth, so massive trees. And I think just like, after a couple camping trips out and you're walking through those forests at night, it is a different feeling of forest out there, where it feels ancient and archaic versus I don't know, something like in the prairie is just something, I don't know, just not as like cinematic, I think is the word. And then from there, you would get these notices living out in Vancouver of missing people all the time, right? And there's actually, I think we posted it to our Instagram. There was this time period in the mid like 2016 or something, that shoes were washing up onto the shores of all the beaches with feet in them. And this was like a thing that everybody was talking about because it kept happening. Like every month there was a new foot and a new shoe that would wash up on the shore, and they would report about it. And so then I think those news reports started coming out, that people started looking into this more. And then that's when these like statistics came out, and like all of us in Vancouver were reading about it because it was in the news. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like this, between the forest, these missing people, and then Vancouver Island specifically, then there was like rumors that there's like a serial killer in Vancouver Island, and there's just one active right now. This gal made a TikTok about it that I found, and then she deleted the TikTok because I'm like, I don't know, like I couldn't find it anymore, but she was talking about that. Anyways, all of this is like just leading to the fact that I was like, oh, this is a perfect setting for a horror movie. Exploit this for entertainment, folks, because nobody knows about this stuff.
Oh, I totally relate. Like, I live by Lake Erie, and like there was a time period like during COVID where there were a couple of different deaths back to back, where they had tide warnings, and people had gone out and swam, and they had people going, and like, but like there are things all the time that are just popping up on Lake Erie. I tell Kylee this all the time because we talk about water spouts, which are like water tornadoes basically that like touch land and stuff like that on the shore.
Yeah.
And so, but like there's just so much at the bottom of Lake Erie that sometimes like it does pop up. Like there are historic pirate ships down there that have been like shipwrecks for years. There's all kinds of stuff, but like it's creepy. So when that started building up, I was like, oh, so like my backyard. Okay, but the trees trees are what would get me, because like when you see the aerial shots, it is different. But like when you guys are actually out there camping, the fact that like a lot of the trees don't even really start up until like 10 feet above you guys, like that's the part that would freak me out.
Well, that was the inspiration, without spoiling anything, the inspiration for the ending was, for me, like walking in those forests at night, you can't see what's in the trees. That's the thing, because it's so dark. You can't. So the horrifying thing to me was, what if something's up there? Because I can't see it. Like, I can see what's on the ground, even with your flashlight, because those trees are so tall, won't go up all the way. So whatever's up there is blackness. And that's where the inspiration came for the ending. Cause I was like, oh, what if something was above you the entire time and you didn't know, and they were watching you the whole time and they were there the entire time. You just never looked up, like, I was like, that's interesting to me. Yeah.
That was
that I'm not going to say anything because it will just spoil it, but that gagged me. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh. It was, I'm going to be thinking about it for the next few days again.
There's another part of that lore too, that there are rumors on Vancouver Island of hidden communities. And you can kind of see some, like, people have pointed out on Reddit, like Google Maps, of like, the aerials of like these weird structures on Vancouver Island. People are like, what is that? And then people have gone there with like dirt bikes, and it is crazy. Some of the videos on YouTube of like, what the fuck? And because Vancouver Island is so big, it's a huge island. You can have a whole community there that nobody knows about. It's that big, right? Like, so that again informed the lore and the story of this movie, because that's truth, and like our blurring of reality to, fiction is. I wanted to push it as far as I could with this movie.
Well, you did. You most definitely did. What themes were most important for you to explore in this film?
Oh, the theme of, grief. I think it plays a huge role in this, because Tara has been grieving her entire life, and it's grief that you can't feel because it's an unknown. So to me, I wanted to play with the theme of, when something happens unknown in your life, what lengths do you go to fill that knowledge gap? And I think that's like a human condition question, that when we don't know something, I think that's inherently human, is when we don't know something, we have to know the answer. The idea of closure, what does that mean? And can you close something? Is that possible? And to me, one of the taglines of the film, thematically, is, not all answers want to be found. And if you open up the past, what does that mean for your current self and your present and your future? Because is it worth opening things up sometimes to get an answer? Is that going to help you? Is that going to rehashing a traumatic event? What really is that, gonna do for you? And I think that's a question, because I'm like, kind of like, my wheels are turning right now. It's like, is it worth it to go down this path? And I think in the movie, I toyed with the idea that if you open up things or wounds from the past, it leads to horrific endings in the future. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah. No, it does.
That is something I totally picked up on, and I'm glad like I was right, because it deeply resonated with me. I have lost both my parents, kind of fairly young adult ages. Myself, I mean. My father committed suicide, and my mom died just very unexpectedly about 3 years ago. And I know what it feels like to try and make sense of things like that, and trying to just like diving deep into the person's psyche or just how things happened, and just not having the answers. There were a lot of times early on in the first few years of just like being in grief, of just their losses of like, trying to make sense of it and willing to deeply disturb myself in order to get those answers. And it finally came to a point, like, at what cost? Because it's truly destroying me mentally, and it's not going to bring them back. Even if I were able to get certain closures, it's still never going to be good enough. And that's why I really, really resonated with Tara's character a lot. Just that wanting to find answers of just what happened and fill in that just super void of emptiness. But at the end of the day, it's never going to, even if you have all the answers.
Yeah, in that time period too, like I also can relate to that because my uncle died 2 weeks after my son was born, and he died in an accident where his car had spun out and went actually into the water, and he made a conscious decision to get out of the car, and it took him under. But that's been, 13, 14 years at this point, because my son's 13. And I will tell you that, like, I resonated with that because this was like this past year we did a big thing for Dios Todos los Muertos, and that was the first time that I actually really like let myself feel comfortable enough to grieve that and to really explore my relationship, because I was so worried about everybody else in my life, like my grandparents, my mother losing her brother, all of that. So it was this idea of like Tara finally having the ability to go as an adult and look at this, because she no longer felt like she had to keep it together for both of her parents. And it was I found that part very like touching on that point. So
yeah, I mean, you guys, and similarly to me, we're all sharing. So at the end of the credits, if you watch right to the very bitter end, there's a dedication for it called Foreign Dree. At the end, that was my uncle who passed away right before I was filming this movie, and he passed away suddenly, and similar, like, and not that it informed my filming. I don't know, maybe it did in my understanding or what I was telling Miranda. He passed suddenly, and it's that whole hole that I think you both know of, like, that's it. There is no answer. It's like, that's life, and it's awful, and it sucks. And the sooner I can just like accept it, that's probably better for me, because if I stayed in this like grief, of course you have to grieve and have those moments to yourself, but there's going to be no closure, like, really, like, at the end of the day for me. Like, I'll just speak for myself. It's like, it's the knowing there's no closure is the closure. And
exactly
like, and you have to accept that, or I have to accept that. But and I think that's with Tara in this movie, is she couldn't accept that, and it doesn't lead to a good end for you, and so you guys, thanks for sharing those stories. Those are really personal things, and I'm again glad that theme came out in the film, because it was very purposeful. And when, even if it's a found footage movie or a low budget horror, I really do want my characters to be connected into like a larger like idea or theme. So I'm so happy that was present for both of you watching this movie. Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I feel like it's an example of what we talk about all the time, because that's why we got into this, is we didn't want to just be the talking heads on the internet like our friends we talk to them about, where we dissect like the gore, the blood and stuff like that. We want to talk about like the deeply traumatic things, the things that horror are built on, that like no other genre really can play with in that way, where you can just let the unferaled side of like the darkest themes come out. So one thing that really stood out to us is how hands-on with this release everyone in this film has been. You're working directly with theaters and handling press yourselves, which is not the typical route. What made you take that approach, and has it changed how you connect with audiences?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the connecting with audiences, that one actually informs the former, because we made the film. we scrounged together money from friends, family, investors. We didn't get funded by a production company. So it's oddly fitting that we're seeing this thing all the way to the end through to a wide release, which is insane by ourselves, because that's been the case from the start. Like from day one was community building. We did this in Vancouver with crews at the time the SAG strike was on, who were out of work. So there was a sense of community and camaraderie because nobody was working in Vancouver at that time. And then we got the money together, and then because no production company would fund us, because I said it's a horror mockumentary, and everyone's like, nope, goodbye. And then we made the movie, and I was really proud of the film. It got in, had some great genre festivals, but the experience from a distribution standpoint was either no, goodbye, or we'll take your movie for pennies. And then I'd be like, okay, that's okay. Like if it's pennies that I'm going to take, what's your plan with the film? What are you going to do with it? And no one could answer that question. It was, well, we'll see, like streaming, like we really think this will do well on streaming. I'm like, yeah, I could have told you that, but like creatively, what are we doing with it? We made it for a community. We feel like this can be something. And we basically got no one excited, or I got no excitement back. And I just couldn't give up on the movie that easily. And eventually what happened was we got the movie into the hands of one company called Moon 7. They saw the movie at Whistler Film Festival. They were stoked. And it's a bunch of young guys at this company. And we had a meeting with them, and I explained to them all this crazy shit about the marketing and this game I want to make. And they were the first ones to be like, yeah, that's dope. Let's do that. Yeah, we'll support you. Like, what do you need us to do? And I was like, wait, wow, that's a totally different tune than because I would present this to the other distributors, and distributors would literally laugh in the meetings. I would tell them about the plans, and they go like, oh yeah, Markian, I mean, like that sounds sure, like we won't be doing that, but if it's something you guys seem, it would be like this, like you're cute mentality, which I was like, I hate that like mentality. And then another group called the 15 Group came along, who are trying to connect exhibitors to filmmakers directly, cut out the distribution and middleman. They got a hold of the film, and again, the same enthusiasm they loved it, and they're like, this has to go to theaters. We will not accept this not going to theaters. We'll do whatever it takes to get you guys into theaters. And those two parties, and then met with our passion and obviously like work on the project, just came to a head last year, where we went and we pitched every exhibitor personally. We went to the AMC offices. We went to the Marcus Theater offices. We went to Regal's offices, Knoxville, Tennessee, Memphis, where else? Kansas City. We flew there and told them about our pitch and why a found footage movie mockumentary deserves to be in theaters. And what this thing we're trying to do is, we were told by distributors, don't go to theaters. They're dead. Skip it. And this is the way. And we were like, you have to understand from a filmmaker's perspective, this is what's happening right now in the market, is the distributors and the people that are your partners are actively working against you. And we don't believe in that model. And we want, as long as the gatekeeping quality of this thing is taken down, we'll work our ass off to get this and make you money. That's the point, right? To get audiences to experience something in the theaters and create community, because that's why we go to theaters now, is that communal experience. So that has to be present. They were really kind to us and have been so supportive. And I tell you, and I'm so glad to report that these people that work at these huge corporations like AMC, they are movie lovers just like you, me, like Sandra, Kylee, Markian. These people are not any different. And so when we presented them with this, they were like, we see your passion, we see your plan, and we'll support you because we want to see if it works. Because if it works, that means it opens up the door for so many other opportunities for filmmakers. And that's the long story, guys, of like how we got here. We are doing it ourselves with like the help of a couple companies. But at the end of the day, we are at the head of the Hydra, of the snake, directing all these things. And what I'm happy about is we are doing that, and we are marketing it like we've always wanted to market it. We are doing the messaging, we're doing the press, and at least that allows us to have control. And I'm happy to say, hey, even if this thing fails or flops, it failed my way, that I thought this thing could go and wanted it to go, and it wasn't somebody else laughing at me and dictating how the process should be. So I'm proud about that.
Yeah, I just love that, because I do think that that is such a great approach to how we are going to fix the issues with all of this, because at the end of the day, the only way we can fight back to what is encroaching on all of our industries with AI, and with like the AI slop and everything that's getting pushed forward with things, is if we're all banding together and we're all saying, no, this is the space that we have. Like I'm a proponent where I feel like if you need to use CGI because you don't have the budget to do certain things, then that's great. Because, there are a lot of films that, like, Do Not Enter was one that I just talked about. They used some CGI, and I could understand why people were complaining about it. But are you going to give them $200 million to actually build the practical set of an actual, like, full on, resort, abandoned resort?
That's the thing. Like, just a lot of these people, especially even just the audiences that are seeing these movies, they truly don't understand what it takes to make a horror film. I mean, I don't, but like I have a pretty good idea. But you can't you don't get like a mountain budget of millions and millions of dollars to be able to do what you want. You have to work with what you have. And with some of these movies, like, I don't know, like a lot of these more independent films that I've seen in the past few years, I like a lot better than some of these big movie budget films. Like,
yep.
I don't know, man.
Historically, Kylee and I, we have not been the biggest proponent of weapons. We love Aunt Gladys. We do. We love Aunt Gladys. We just want to get that out. Amy Madigan is a delight. Yeah. And Zach Cregger's is great.
Some big holes in that movie, hey, a little.
Yeah, but for us, we had seen 825 Forest Road by Stephen Cognetti before that, and it's the same format, but it does it so scarier. And especially if you're somebody that is self-filming a lot and everything, there are some truly just deeply unsettling things about that movie. And so for us, like, I remember Kylee watched it and she almost turned in her horror card. She was like, if this is what is popular right now and I'm not jiving with it, maybe I'm not. But then she watched The Man in the Black Umbrella, which is an independent film, and that is it's a really great one. And what he did for the budget he had for that movie is very similar to exactly what you're doing. And it's the same things that they're telling him, you can't do this. And he's like, yeah, okay, watch me. I'm going to do it.
I don't like, and there's a lot of negatives. There's a lot of about our industry right now and the state of the thing. But I do think the positive that's starting to emerge, we saw it with Iron Lung, the democratization of entertainment and what online is bringing us is an opportunity where you don't have 3 to 4 companies in Hollywood deciding what we want to see. So there is a positive thing now, which I hope Hunting Matthew Nichols is part of the movement. Iron Lung is already, so we've got 2 already within 2026 that, okay, there's a democracy online of like what we can watch and what's available, but there's not a democracy in theaters, what's available. What's in theaters is still decided by 5 companies, right? And what they deem worthy of going to theaters is still there. So I'm hoping with this model that now we start to break down the theatrical system where you make a movie, you want to go to theaters. You don't need to get bought by Paramount. You don't need to get bought by Warner Brothers, A24, Neon. You can do it yourself. There is a path. And as long as that path exists, then how exciting is that where I'm a filmmaker, I don't have to go to streaming or put it up on the rentals right away. I say, well, I'm going to try to theaters because you don't know what's going to catch. You don't know what's going to what people are going to resonate with. And there will be more of these indie hits, I hope, over the next while where it's just like, yeah, they never would have even had that chance before and just give them a shot.
Yep.
And I hope that starts to exist, because within the model of the 15 group is making a platform called Attend, where this is just like in the beta phase model, where if you got a movie, you can put it onto Attend, and the exhibitors directly can watch your screener and then book you based on analytics data of where they think your movie is going to hit and play well based on audience trends. So then they can grab your film and be like, you know what, we're going to try it in 40 screens, and it's no cost to you as the filmmaker, but we're going to try it over here because Hunting Matthew Nichols killed it over here. So your movie's like Hunting Matthew Nichols, we're going to put it over here on this time because that. So they're coming up with this back end data which doesn't exist for theaters right now, and then that's going to be the way forward. So a Tubi. Instead, this is the theater model where I'm going to upload my movie. So that's what they're working on. That's what this is all about. So we're the first wide release part of this data system that they're building, which is really exciting.
That's super groundbreaking. Like that truly is, and I think that is going to be a way that we can keep movie theaters alive, because there are some movies that, like in my area, I live in like a rural town in Ohio, where some movies, like the people are not going to appreciate it. They're not going to see it. But there's other ones, like everyone's in the seats in the theaters, you know. I love that so much.
Yeah, what I don't love about the new system is, like, I see like a movie on streamer or something, I'm like, wait, you didn't even try? You didn't even go? Like, I would have loved to have seen this in a theater. I would have seen this, but you didn't even with some of the big budget stuff. Like, it's like, what are we doing here? And then you see behind the curtain a little bit, what's happening is because those companies like Netflix and all the streamers, there's more money with just going straight to streaming because they don't have to share it with somebody else, right? Like you just see the inner politics of like how this stuff works, and it sucks because filmmakers are on the bottom of it. Right? I don't see the dollars from these streamers. I don't see, these deals. I feel like filmmakers are getting taken advantage of right now. And hopefully with doing more press, and like, I want to start a movement where I'm like, guys, we're the artists.
Yeah.
We're the ones with the product. They don't have the product. So stop letting them have the power. It's a bit of a fight right now. And that's what this was about with Hunting Matthew Nichols. I had that attitude. I'm like, fuck that. Why am I letting them have the power with this movie? I'm the one that made it. And I'm the one that should, and I hope that more filmmakers take that power, forward. And it's harder, and it's, but we're the ones with making the movies, and so we should have a bigger seat at the table.
Yeah, I truly feel that. And I do love that Tubi has kind of brought that in a way too, because Tubi still remains to this day, this whole time, and we're about to go on 5 years of doing this podcast. Well, me doing 5 years. But literally the whole time Tubi has stayed the same, where they have brought all of these films that nobody else would pick up, brought them to the forefront and said, listen, we are going to let people have what they want for free. We are not going to charge people for this, and we are going to let them have it. And I mean, they are consistently the top streamers for us, because every time we've gone and tried to do a deep dive with certain movies, we have a running joke. Like, as of this moment, like, we literally say the timestamp on our episodes half the time. Like, up until a couple weeks ago, this was not available. Like, and we have to do that. But Tubi has taken a lot of those movies and really pushed that forward.
Yeah.
I mean, another streaming channel is Found TV. Found TV. Yes. They do charge like a ad-free or whatever subscription, but they are a great platform for like found footage, independent films, and I love them. I find a lot of just underrated, crazy things on there.
Yeah, they're great. I know the CEO of Found TV. What's his name? It's gonna escape me. He's so nice. But yeah, I'm hoping Hunting Matthew Nichols. There's a market. I look, again, obviously I'm biased. I'm like, I hope the movie does well, like box office wise. But on top of that, I just hope it does well because more of these weird small movies deserve to be in theaters. So if we can hopefully be medium successful at this, it opens up the door that like other found footage movies can start finding their way to the screen that are not even given that opportunity. And then all the way through, then it's like, try the theaters, do your VOD, then go to Tubi. There's a path without anybody else involved, and that exists. And so hopefully we're at the precipice of something.
Listen, if we have anything to do with it, we're going to make sure that Matthew Nichols is successful and that we're going to keep blasting it out. But we've covered so much in this, and we appreciate your time so much. What is next for you after Hunting Matthew Nichols?
Great question. The sequel is written and finished. We have always, and I have always made this a two-parter. I shaped it from the start. I ended this movie purposefully where it ends, because the sequel was always in mind. I wish I could talk to you guys. I mean, I could a little bit. The funny thing so if you're watching our Instagram and going through our marketing right now, what nobody knows this. The marketing we're doing literally is teeing up the part 2. And so keep watching it, because what's happening right now actually informs more of the sequel than it does the present, because everything we're doing right now is after the film.
I just realized I connected the dots. Sorry, that was like a bit, but yeah, we were just talking about that, because your
neck brace on, that is a piece of content that we're going to be using in the sequel, because I've just gotten out of the hospital, right? I've just gotten out of the thing. Markian, the director, is now making this movie and marketing it and putting it into theaters because he has to convince the world about what happens on Vancouver Island. Now, the reaction from everybody is, cute Markian, this is a fake horror movie you made. So the meta quality of this is going further and further and further, because everyone doesn't believe. And so we're going to be grabbing comments of people saying fake, 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 stupid, stupid, stupid. And this is Markian's frustration in the sequel, that nobody believes him, that he put this movie out there to get awareness about there's something fucked up in those forests, but nobody thought it was real. And there's just going to be a few people that do believe me, and we got to go back to the forest, in part 2 to get Tara out of there. So we're working with it's going to be Hunting Tara Nichols is the sequel. And I hope we get to make it, because all of this stuff will tie together and fucking make sense, to the point where you're going to be like, this has been a long game Markian's been playing for 8 years, like by the time the sequel comes out. And then they use the marketing for one as part of the whole narrative for the second one.
You actually may be a genius.
Oh, God, you guys.
Period, point blank. And I am already seated and terrified. Yeah. Like, everybody needs to go out and see Hunting Matthew Nichols, so that way we can get a part 2. We need it.
And I'm excited. I'm like Sean, the writer. Oh, killed it. Oh my God. I just like the way he shaped the second one. And it's like, okay, the last 15 minutes or so of episode part 1, is you get about 45 minutes of that in part 2, and the horrific quality of what we go through and what, Markian goes through in the second one. And also, just to like tease it, because I might as well, the lead of part 2 is Pam the cop. So we're going to get she's 70. So Christina's 73. She's already working out and getting prepped for 2, because I was like, I gave her the script. I'm like, here it is. So she's our hero. She's the villain in number 1, but she's the hero in number 2. Her arc is it's so satisfying. And I'm like, name me a movie where it's like an action found footage, like alien movie with a 73-year-old woman as the lead, and she's the fucking badass. I'm like, I hope we get to do this.
Yeah. Listen, we're going to be pushing this so far, because Kylee and I want it, because we were just talking about how we do not have enough of just older characters in horror. There is an incredible writer, Mark Taus, that is a friend of mine, that he came on and he talked about, hey, but he has a whole bunch of books that are senior horror. And like, we talked about like just how there is not much when it comes to that. And so I would absolutely love that. So please go see it. It is coming to theaters April 10th. We will make sure when this episode comes out that we have linked different theaters of where it is possibly going to be playing. So that way you can go, you can see where it's going to be at in your area. I would highly encourage you to go do that. And listen, if Rick and Brewster are listening to this, if it's playing near us, you guys owe me. We're going to see this together. I'm going to introduce you to this. We have to get you hip. But yeah, so please go out and see it. I absolutely adore it. I know Kylee adores it too, and we just cannot wait. We will definitely, once the film is out, comes out to VOD, has been out for a bit, we'll probably come back and do a deeper dive, talk about all the moving pieces and parts, because that's what we do. But for now, we've kind of left it ambiguous because we want you to go see the movie. Just do it. Just do it.
Go see the movie
right now. Yeah, open the browser, put the tab up, do it. Yeah, we'll make it easy for you. But thank you so much, Markian, for coming on.
Yes,
and,
thank you so much.
Talking. It has been an absolute delight, and we greatly appreciate you. So, Hunting Matthew Nichols, like we said, is going to be in 8 theaters April 10th. And until next time, it's me, Cass, and
Kylee.
And we are the Horrorcraft Podcast, and we're saying bye and stay spooky. Bye.
Bye.